Fight fans, welcome back to Carl Prusa MMA. Today we got a returning guest to the platform. My guest getting ready, getting on a big fight, going over to Canada, fighting UFC Vancouver, October 18th. He is Mr. Cody Gibson. Cody, what's up, my friend? How are you?
Doing well. Just wrapping up a pretty long day of training, but it was a good day. I'm out here in Vegas for the week, so.
Absolutely. A lot of big things have happened since the last time we talked. Last time I talked to you, you were in the classroom. You were in your former classroom. We did the interview from the class. Now, I don't think you're teaching anymore. You're out Vegas, you're training, you're doing the whole full-time fighting thing. How's the transition been?
It was a little weird, in August when all my coworkers or, people I know in education were going back to work, and my kids were going back to school. My wife works in the school district as a nurse, so she was going back, and I was like, yeah, it's a never-ending summer. My summer was training twice a day, but I just continued it, So I did a little bit of substitute teaching actually at the start of the year. I kind of telling myself in between fights, work a little bit, to help supplement some income, and then when I get the fight, be able to really just hone in and focus just on the fight and do a lot of traveling too. So it's been nice. It's been nice. A roll of the dice.
Absolutely. For so many fighters, man, they try so hard, so long to try to get to that point where they can live off of fighting. They don't need to worry about that whole 9-to-5 job. For you, has this been something you've been envisioning and thinking about for a long time?
Yeah, I started teaching the year I got cut from the UFC back in 2015. Took me 8 years to get back to the UFC, so I was teaching that whole time. And then when I got on the show, I wasn't, I've got 3 kids and a wife and a full-time job, and it took me a couple of years to be like, all right, I need to have some success in the UFC and, hopefully be around here for a while. And now that we're in a position, I just felt like I saved some money and made my wife feel at ease as best I can. And so we're making it work, but it's not an easy thing to do. And I'm grateful to have the opportunity to do it, because the grind of, getting up 4 or 5 in the morning and training before work and then going in after work, I don't miss it. I'll tell you that much.
Absolutely. Now, where are you for at in Vegas? Are you at the PI right now?
Yeah, one of my best friends has a place here, and his folks live here, live in it. He's actually moving back, but he's on the East Coast right now. That's where he's living right now. And he Airbnb it for a long time, and then he ended up having his parents move into it. So I stay with them. It's out in the suburbs in Summerlin, so it's kind of a nice, kind of a hoity-toity, nice, a lot of high-end retail and stuff like that. And then I just mob it into the PI and Extreme Couture, and I spend my whole day over there, either at the PI or Extreme Couture, back and forth, pretty much all day. And then I come back here in the evening and get ready to do it all over again tomorrow,
Absolutely. Your career has been so amazing, man. When you look at your career, I think it's one that so many people who do this sport want to do. Obviously, been in the UFC multiple times, fought some former champion, Aljamain Sterling, some other big names, was on the Ultimate Fighter show. But I think the coolest thing with you, man, you were doing this before this was cool. Dating back pre-2010, it wasn't too long ago. This wasn't legal in every single state. People had called it human cockfighting back in the day. People didn't think it would survive. It's crazy to see where it is now. When you first started, man, do you remember back in the day any promotions where maybe the conditions were a little different? Maybe you fought outside, bars, mystery opponents, anything like that?
My very first fight, and I'm still wrestling in college at this time, and I just took a fight in the summertime. Like, they're gonna pay me $250 to show up and weigh in, and then $250 if I won. And so $500 at that stage of my life was, and I was getting into scuffles anyway at the bars, so I might as well make $500 doing it. But I remember it was out at Eagle Mountain Casino at an Indian reservation up in Porterville, California, and it's a big tent event, and they've got us, in the back warming up in these little tents, and I looked over, the guy who's fighting right before me is in jean shorts and he's smoking a cigarette, and I remember sitting there thinking about my life choices, at that moment, like, should I be doing this? I'm like, so yeah, it's come a long way since those days.
Absolutely, man. Are you surprised of how the landscape of MMA is, man? Are you surprised how this thing whole blew up and how it evolved to what it is today?
I mean, to some extent, I think it's been interesting seeing how the newer generation of kids, like young kids, interact with the sport. Um, I'll see kids when I was teaching at the middle school walking around with Volkanovski shirts and, like different, Dustin Poirier shirts. He started selling a lot of their merchandise at PacSun and stuff like that, and different skate shops kind of thing. And so, yeah, it's been interesting. The kids are like, I mean, a lot of them are into like the Jake Paul stuff, like that's their jam. And they always want to talk about that with me. And I'm just like, guys, I don't really vibe with that stuff too much, like I'm not that interested in it. But it is kind of cool to see, just how the sport's evolving and growing, both the good and the bad, so I don't know. I don't think I anticipated it, if that was the question. I don't think, I always kind of felt like it was a niche thing, and at the end of the day, I'm just a gym rat, right? Like I just love to be on the mats. Like people always ask about like, what are your hobbies? I'm like, what are hobbies? Like I'm training and I'm being a dad. Like that's my hobbies, like that's pretty much all I have time to do. And I'd rather be training than doing anything else. So, my wife's telling me like, man, when you retire, you're going to have to find some stuff to do, cause you don't really have anything. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I just train and, deal with my duties at home. But yeah, for me, it's like, it is interesting to see like mainstream people get involved in the sport or start to watch the sport, because I'm like, I don't know, I guess I'm old school in some ways.
Absolutely. I think in addition to, how big the sports game, how many shows right now, and how big arenas, how many more people are watching it, the evolution of skill has greatly evolved, in my opinion. And I think one of the reasons is kids are now doing jiu-jitsu at 6, 7 years old. There's in some states that are doing youth MMA when they turn 12, 13. By the time they're 20, some guys are turning pro into the UFC now, 22, 23. Is this something you're noticing, seeing just an evolution in skill?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, when I first started watching the sport, probably in the early 2000s, I was a big WWF fan back when it was like Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior when I was a kid, and then when it started getting a little raunchy with the Generation X and like the crotch points and stuff, my dad was like, you guys aren't watching this anymore, and so, but he would still rent us the DVDs for the fights from Blockbuster and let us watch those. So we started watching, pretty consistently, like way back then, and just seeing where it's gone, the ups and downs of each of the martial arts and how they're applied, and really what I think more than anything is like mixed martial arts created a new martial art. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you can train everything, but you're gonna have to make changes to every one of those martial arts if you want to fight in this sport. You can't stand like a Thai fighter, if you come from a Muay Thai background, or you can't necessarily do the same, De La Hiva guard isn't going to work so well in MMA if you're a jiu-jitsu guy. Wrestlers have to make transitions into changing up some things, and all the martial arts, boxers, I mean, they all have to be a kink, like little kinks made to them if you're going to try to apply them to this sport. So it's been interesting, but I do still feel like there's value in training specific martial arts as each martial art individually, and then bringing it all together with MMA. And I'm kind of glad that that's the way I was brought up. Was I started wrestling, and then eventually once I got out of college wrestling, I started doing jiu-jitsu and boxing and kickboxing and Muay Thai, and kind of like engulfing myself in each of those martial arts at different times in my life. And I feel like today's younger generation, well, yes, I agree, the techniques getting even better and better, and the bar is being raised, especially as more money gets involved in the sport. But some of the younger kids today, they grow up doing mixed martial arts as a whole, and they don't ever get as much like just boxing or just Muay Thai or just jiu-jitsu. And so I always encourage, especially young guys who are just getting involved in the sport, like, hey man, go engulf yourself in jiu-jitsu for 3 months where all you're doing, like, that's your main focus. 80% of your training is hitting jiu-jitsu twice a day. And then do the same thing with other martial arts and kind of like engulf yourself in that culture, in that environment, learn this martial art. And then as you gain more experience, you could start bringing it all together into MMA, you know?
Absolutely. You know, you made your UFC debut against Guy, went on to become a champion, Aljamain Sterling. Where were you when you got that phone call that you're being signed to the UFC?
I'll never forget it. I was coaching. I was a high school wrestling coach, fighting on the regional scene and stuff, you know. And yeah, I was at a summer practice. Was it summer? Maybe spring. I don't remember what time of year it was, but I remember I was at wrestling practice, and my phone was in the office of the wrestling room, and I don't know if practice had ended or what, but I went and checked my phone and had like 20 missed calls and texts from my manager and Audi Attar at the time, Paradigm Sports Management back then I was with. And yeah, that was a special moment because I didn't take an easy path to get to the UFC the first time. Like I was fighting high level guys. After my first maybe 8 fights, I started fighting for titles against like black belts and like pretty high level guys. So guys that would eventually go on to be in the UFC as well. So, yeah, it was a wild journey, but I do remember, that first phone call of finally getting in, and it was on 10 days notice, and I had 30 pounds to lose in 10 days. And it was a big pay-per-view in Vegas. And I was fighting another wrestler from the East Coast. I was a West Coast wrestler, and I was fighting an East Coast wrestler. So a lot of nerves, but that was probably the toughest weight cut I ever had. But we made it happen.
Absolutely. You know, when a lot of people talk about you, obviously one thing that sticks out is the wrestling. I mean, you're such an amazing wrestler, but I think a lot of people sleep on the hands that you have, man. I mean, you showed on the Johnny Bedford fight, you showed on the regional scene, you showed on the Ultimate Fighter show. You can knock people out, man. Do you really feel like this age in your career, you're really starting to make that turn and be as well-rounded as you can be?
Yeah, I just always prided myself in trying to be the best I can be in each discipline. And then I think that gives me options, like maybe plan A is this, but if it's not working, I can go to plan B and plan C. And just having the options, like, if I'm fighting a guy who's predominantly a striker, if he's losing the striking battle, like, he doesn't have the tools to become a wrestler suddenly. And, at least not against me or not, so just being able to adjust in fights and have options, and approach every fight differently. I wonder sometimes, like, if an opponent's watching film study on you, what are they seeing? And like, I think it varies. I think one fight is a 15-minute or 25-minute stand-up fight, and then another fight I go in and I'm wrestling right away. Like, you never really know what approach I'm going to take, and so I think that it leaves a little bit of unpredictability.
Absolutely. You mentioned you've been watching the sport for such a long time. You're on these OG fight fans as well. You got to fight an OG. You got to fight Manny Gambirian. It didn't go your way, but was that pretty cool to mix it up with one of the, I guess you could say, pioneers of the sport?
Yeah. I remember watching him on The Ultimate Fighter with Nate Diaz, and then he started dropping from 55s to 45s and then all the way down to 35s. And he was known for his guillotine. Like, if you talk to like people in gyms he had been in, everyone said like, this guy's got a freaking tight guillotine. And I was piecing him up, man. I dropped him like 2 or 3 times. It was like he was so much shorter than me. I was just like jabbing him up in straight shots and hurting him. He had a big old mouse under his eye. And I was just like, man, I'm going to finish him at any moment, and then that's the way the fight game goes. I got caught in a scramble, and then he strapped on that guillotine, man. And but it was cool to fight him. And I've had a few guys that I've fought that I've really, John Dodson and Ray Borg, and I know they're a little not. John Dodson's been around forever. I remember that guy. I was following his career before he was ever in the UFC on the regional scene, just because he was so fast. And some of those guys like that, I'm sure, especially after it's all said and done, I'll be able to look back and just be proud that I got to fight, with some real guys and that pioneers of the sport or guys who left a legacy.
Absolutely. For the vast majority of fighters, I mean, the sacrifice to make it to the UFC, I mean, is a real thing. On the regional scene, a lot of guys have the 9-to-5 jobs. You stay up late, you wake up early, miss weddings, birthdays, Thanksgivings, dinner. It's hard to have a relationship. It's hard to take care of your kids if you have it. You're a type of dude, you had to do this twice. The second time around, you found yourself outside the UFC. You had that taste of being in the spotlight, being the biggest organization in the world. Found yourself outside of it, doing that grind to get back. What was that period like in your life?
There was a lot of ups and downs, and wondering, especially as I started having kids and having to be away from the house and the family to train after work and before work. And, I always go back to like, man, if I didn't have my wife, like, supporting me the way she does, like, couldn't have done it, and yeah, I mean, it was definitely some trials and tribulations and some times where you're wondering if it's worth it, and I just kept telling her and kept telling myself, like, yeah, I know it's not worth it right now. Like, I'm making like $4,000 in this fight or whatever, and the amount of time I'm training, it doesn't add up, like it's not worth it. But it's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it. So, I was dead set on that. And, even when I had setbacks, on the regional scene, at different couple times, it was just, I'm gonna get back, and then I'm just like a gnat, man. I never go away.
Absolutely. You got back to the mainstream, I guess, part of the sport with the Ultimate Fighter. You're on that great season with Michael Chandler, Conor McGregor. Were great in the house, picked up some big wins, big finish performance, finished Rico Deshulo with the nice choke. Found yourself in the finals, found yourself on the card. Aljamain Sterling, your first opponent, fight defending his title against Sean O'Malley that night. Fought Brad Katona, wasn't the way you wanted, but fight of the night, one of the best fights on that card. What was it like then after the fight, finding out that you were going to get a contract and you were going to get another stint in the UFC?
Yeah, I was in the Boston hospital after the fight. And first, my brothers who went with me to the hospital was like, hey, you got fight of the night. And I was like, hell yeah. Like, even if this is the end of the road, like, at least I'll end it on that, And then when Dana had the press conference and somebody asked him about me and he said, my phone's getting blown up or whatever. Yeah, he's gonna stick around. Like, it was definitely I had promised my wife when I went on the show, I'm gonna get back in the UFC. I thought that'd be by winning the show. So by losing in the finale, but it was a hell of a fight and I had a lot of fun. So it was a good night. And Boston's kind of got a special place in my heart. Not only did I just love the city, but I had so many friends and family come out for that fight, fly across the country for it. So my parents were there. My wife was pregnant at the time, and she came out, and it was just a trip that none of us will ever forget. So Boston's a place I'm already like looking at it like I got to get back to Boston. I got to get back to the East Coast. I didn't see everything, so I got to go to Fenway and some different places. So.
Absolutely. So coming up, you're fighting internationally, going over to Canada, fighting a Vancouver card. You're taking on Aoriqileng. What do you think of him as an opponent?
He's an exciting striker. He likes to bring it. He likes to throw down. He's got some slick striking, some good counter striking. He's got some power behind him. His wrestling defense isn't bad either. He stuffed all of Raul Rosa Jr.'s shots in the second round of their fight. So he definitely has a good sprawl. So it's a difficult matchup. I think it'll be interesting to mix it up on the feet with him. It'll be interesting to see how he handles my pressure. He's a guy who likes to take the center of the cage and stand there and wait for you. And he wants to invite you into the pocket and counter strike you. So I've got I think it's going to be interesting to see if I could apply pressure on him and get him moving backwards. that's kind of how I fight. So we're either going to meet in the middle and he's going to stand his ground, or eventually I feel like I start moving him backwards and wearing on him. It's a war of attrition every time I'm fighting. So that's the plan.
With this one, I'm really excited. I mean, both of you guys are absolute dogs. I think you guys are some of the toughest guys in the division. A lot of fun to watch fight. Could you see this one becoming a 3-round dog fight potentially?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm always shooting for fight of the night. So this guy seems like the kind of dance partner who would oblige. And so, of course, you don't want to just go out and just swing and not have any rhyme or reason. But I'm not afraid to be in the fire, and this guy seems to like to be in the fire too. So I'm sure we'll find ourselves. Somebody's going to get burned. Maybe both of us.
Absolutely. All right, before we wrap things up here, one thing I want to do, I want to go through some big fights coming up. I want to get your predictions, see who's going to win some of these big contests. So next weekend, Vegas, great show. We got Merab Dvalishvili, your division, putting that belt on the line. Corey Sandhagen trying to take it away from him. Who wins that one?
I think this is probably his most dangerous fight as far as a striker is concerned. But Corey, he showed in the Umar fight that while he couldn't necessarily stuff all the takedowns, he's good everywhere, and he's gotten better at getting up and scrambling and stuff like that. I just can't bet against Merab at this point. I feel like he's been so dominant. I think if anybody's got a good shot to clip him with the knee, as a flying knee, or a good shot and put his lights out, it's probably Corey Sandhagen. The guy's a sniper. But if I was betting on the fight, I couldn't bet against Merab. I just can't. The guy's a freaking animal. He's a machine for a reason, and I just don't know if anybody could handle that pressure. We'll see how Corey deals with it. He's got good footwork. He moves a lot, so I think. But if you look how Merab fought O'Malley, especially that first fight where he kind of he didn't chase him. He made O'Malley come to him a little bit at times. And he let the fight progress, and O'Malley didn't just get to stand back and try to counter the guy coming in on him. So it'll be interesting to see how Merab approaches him. But I think Sandhagen out of everybody in the bantamweight division right now, we saw what he did to Umar already. I feel like he broke Umar, which is saying something, because Umar, I think in any other era, is a long-standing champion. But he just happens to have Merab in the way, and I think those are the two best guys in the division. But I'm glad we get some fresh faces. Corey's been fighting at the top for so long, finally getting his title shot. So I wouldn't put it past him, but I just can't bet against Merab.
Main event that night, a big rematch. A lot of people are excited for. Ankalaev putting the belts on the line now. Pereira trying to take it away from him. Who wins it the second time around?
The thing about the first fight, everyone thought he was going to just wrestle him, and that was how he would beat him. But that wasn't really the case. He was outstriking him, and so I don't know, maybe Alex took it a little lightly, or just worked solely on his wrestling defense and wasn't as prepared on the feet, or didn't expect that. So I definitely think we'll see a better Alex Pereira this time. If I had a bet on the fight, I probably would go with Pereira, and maybe that just be the fan in me and Peloton and the whole mystic aura around that guy. But yeah, if I had to make a prediction, I would, even though the first fight is what we have to go off of. The data suggests that the Russian's gonna win again, and like I said, I think I'm gonna go with Alex. I think he's gonna get it done.
The main event for the card that you're on, Ranier de Ritter now taking on Brandon Allen. What a great fight. Who do you think wins that one?
De Ritter's looked better and better every time he's fought in the UFC. He's kind of unorthodox and awkward, but a really good grappler, really big for the weight class. I was more excited to see who's he originally supposed to fight?
Anthony Hernandez.
Oh yeah, I was more excited to see that fight, because I think if there's anybody that could give Khamzat a run right now, in my opinion, is probably Anthony Hernandez. But Yeah, Brendan Allen's a dog too. You know, that guy's been around forever. He's kind of had some ups and downs, but yeah, I think it'll be a good fight. I'll probably go with the Ritter just because he's got the momentum, I think, and has been looking really good. But Brendan Allen, yeah, super talented guy. He's been around forever. Um, yeah, maybe he gets it done. Who knows?
Last one I want to talk about, big New York card in November. Got a great main event for it. Jack Della Maddalena defending that 170 title. Islam Makhachev moving up, trying to capture another belt. Who wins that one?
I think Delameda. I think the Australian wins it. I think the team they have over there, looking how Volk dealt with them, with the wrestling, especially in that really close fight that they had before. I mean, I know he got knocked out the second time, but I think that team has maybe it's Craig Jones. I don't know, but they have an answer to some of that Dagestani wrestling. And he's big, he's big and he's got a gas tank and he's definitely got, better hands from what I see. So I think he does. I think Jack gets it done, and I think Islam comes back down and fights the Spaniard, if I had to guess.
You mentioned a little earlier, man, you're a gym rat. You've been dedicating so much of your life to this sport for such a long time. Is it safe to say, in some way, shape, or form, will Cody Gibson be involved in some sort of martial arts for the rest of his life?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll always be on a mat, wrestling mat, a jiu-jitsu mat, kickboxing. I love all this stuff. So I've thought about opening a gym when I'm done. It's something that me and my wife have talked about, and it's something. There's nothing definitive, but we've talked about it, and so that's something we're thinking about. I guess it's in the early stages of planning, but I love to coach. I love to teach. It's been weird because I kind of transitioned on my little team that I have in California. It's a lot of young guys, right? They're all 20, 21, 22 amateurs or just young pros. And so I've kind of taken a leadership role on the team, and it's been cool. It's like not transitioning to a coach all the time. I'm still there training myself, but definitely a leadership position. And I think that, I enjoy, I've always coached wrestling, but I enjoy coaching martial arts too. And so definitely I'll be on a mat either coaching, training. Hopefully my body holds up and I could at least get a couple grappling sessions a week and maybe some light sparring. I'm probably done when I'm done fighting. I don't know though. I love to spar, so who knows? Maybe I'll still find myself in there on sparring days. I don't know. We'll see.
Absolutely.
But I'll always be on a mat my whole life. My wrestling coach in college, my junior college, was like 78 years old, and he was like hunchback and like he'd been wrestling his whole life, and I look at him, I'm like, yeah, that's gonna be me someday too.
Absolutely. So, all right, Cody, last question for you, my friend. In a perfect world, what is the outcome when you make your return to the Octagon October 18th, Vancouver, Canada? What happens, my friend?
I think I'm gonna knock him out. That's what I think. I think that's what I'm thinking in my head. I think I'm gonna catch him. He's a really good counter striker, and he's got heavy shots for sure. But he's also very hittable. His defense isn't as good as his offense, from what I see. And I have some good long strikes, and as long as I can keep him straight, and I think I'm gonna catch him. I think he's hittable, and I think I have the power to knock him out. So, I'm trying to go home with a bonus, and I've always had good experiences in Canada fighting, so got to keep the ball rolling. I actually got guys that I met in my last Canadian fight in Edmonton last year, and I had given some tickets out to fans, and I met them at the hotel and hung out with them a little bit, and I have a couple of them that are flying out to Vancouver from Edmonton to come watch me fight. So I got a little Canadian crew with me. So hoping to be a good time, and yeah, I'm excited.
Absolutely. Well, Cody, man, always a pleasure catching up with you. I wish you nothing but the best. I'm excited to see you get back in there, brother.
Hey, always good talking to you, Carlo. Take care, man.
Absolutely. Well, that's it for us tonight. I'm Carl Prusa. He is the Renegade. He is Mr. Cody Gibson. You can watch him returning that UFC Octagon October 18th, Vancouver, Canada. Take it easy, fight fans.